The World Economic Forum officially kicking off there in Davos. We will be returning to the live proceedings when we can in a short while. Well, that January get-together is seen as an opportunity for international heads of state to come together to try to put the world to rights. Well, for now, I'm joined on the line from Beijing by Mike Bastin from the University of Southampton. I do understand that we will be returning to him as well when we can. Well, the World Economic Outlook. The Davos Summit comes as the International Monetary Fund has revised down its global growth forecast for the coming year. CGTN's Guy Henderson reports now from Davos.
There's no global recession round the corner, says the IMF, but economic growth is set to slow and governments need to get their act together.
And the message is the following for policymakers. Address remaining vulnerabilities and be ready if a serious slowdown were to materialize.
The warning came in Davos, Switzerland, where business and political leaders are gathering for the World Economic Forum.
When they gathered here 12 months ago, there was a sense of relief, some optimism that the global economy finally seemed to be getting back on its feet. The mood has changed here now. And even the IMF admits that in this unpredictable global environment, their forecast may yet be thrown off again.
US President Donald Trump may have a hand in that. He cancelled his trip to Davos to focus on the government shutdown back home. If that drags on, the world's largest economy is bound to feel the effect. Another deal that's yet to be brokered, one to end Washington's trade war with China, whose government reported on Monday its slowest annual growth rate since 1990. And then there's that great unknown, Brexit. A disorderly withdrawal could provide another unwelcome economic shock. Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May stayed home too. For several Western leaders, in fact, this gathering of the global elite is not the place to be seen right now. Critics are vocal.
The people in Davos, the big company leaders and the political leaders, are part of the problem. They are the problem, and we want them to be the solution to ending extreme inequality, because it's out of control, it's widening, it's hurting our economy, slowing our economies, it's undermining democracy, it is trapping people in poverty. So I'm here to call for action.
Growing inequality will be part of the discussion here in the coming days too, even with more haves in the room than have-nots. Guy Henderson, CGTN, Davos.
Well, let's discuss this further. I'm now joined in studio by David Owiro. He's an economist joining me live here in Nairobi. David, thank you for joining us on Africa Live. Let's start off with the theme for this year's World Economic Forum, Globalization 4.0 and in line with the fourth industrial revolution. We have seen the agenda of that meeting. What is the focus on technology at the World Economic Forum, and how exactly does Africa fit in?
Thank you for having me. I think the focus, rightly so, is one on information technology. We know for a long time now, information technology has provided not only further access, but also it's acting as a lubricant for the global economy because you can now trade much faster online through e-commerce, but also it can provide solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. And so for Africa, we know technology plays a key role. We are underdeveloped, and to achieve the industrialization dream that we have, technology is at the core of that, in addressing not only the challenges of drought and famine, but also in providing for the key social sectors of healthcare, technology, as well as education platforms that can go towards meeting the industrialization growth that Africa aspires to.
All right. David, do stay with us. We'll continue with this discussion. For now, we will be returning to Davos to join in on the proceedings of the World Economic Forum. Take a listen.
2019. Welcome to this summit at the beginning of the year to look at the state of the world and to work together to improve the state of the world. We are here a true multi-stakeholder community. I welcome particularly our business community, our partners, our members. I thank you for your engagement and for your loyalty. I welcome very cordially the representatives of international organizations and governments who are here in a record number. I welcome, very important for the forum, the representatives of civil society, the NGOs, the cultural leaders, the trade union leaders. Very important, the participation of scientists, of experts. And this year, again, we have the participation of the young generation of social entrepreneurs. And I'm so pleased that we have social entrepreneurs, as you will see, and global shapers, young global leaders, to be the co-chairs of this meeting. With half of the population below 27 years old, we have to listen to the young people, and that's what we will do during this meeting. This meeting is not only a multi-stakeholder meeting, it's also a multidisciplinary meeting. We want, at the beginning of the year, to look at all the global challenges, and you have seen them in the introductory film, and to look at those challenges in a systemic way. It's very important to see the interconnections. The world and the issues are interdependent. For this reason, we have 400 different sessions, 200 sessions which are related to specific outcome-oriented work streams of the World Economic Forum. This meeting is also a truly global meeting, and I'm very pleased that we have record participation from emerging nations. I welcome particularly the strong Chinese delegation here. This meeting is also different because we want to use our energy and shape the future. We want to be future-oriented and not absorbed just by crisis management. Too much of the global energy at this moment is going into crisis management. But we are at crossroads of history, of humanity. We have now to shape the future, and that's what we will do over the next 4 days. We are also purpose-oriented, and the purpose of our presence here, of our work, is encapsulated into the theme of this annual meeting, which is Globalization 4.0, shaping the global architecture for the age of the fourth industrial revolution. I want to make a differentiation between globalization and globalism. Globalization is a fact. Globalization will increase. We are part of a global community. We are interconnected. And particularly in the digital world, which doesn't know boundaries, our global interconnectedness will increase. Globalization is different. Globalization is the philosophy with which we approach globalization. The World Economic Forum never stood for unfettered globalization. We feel that globalization 4.0 has to be more human-centered, because we are now, in some way, in a battle between robots and humankind. We don't want to become the slaves of the new technologies. So globalization has to aim at being human-centered. But globalization has also, globalization 4.0, has also to be more inclusive. Let's not forget, multilateralism has helped to lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. But today, we cannot afford anymore to leave people behind in the age of social media and if we take our consciousness of social justice. But very important, globalization 4.0 has also to be much more sustainable. This is the reason why we put so much emphasis on environmental issues during this meeting. And let me close just saying we need also a remoralization of globalization to recreate a values-based approach to globalization. Ich habe jetzt die große Ehre,
I now have the great honor
den Schweizer Bundespräsidenten,
to welcome the
Herrn
President of
Ueli
Switzerland,
Maurer,
Mr. Ueli
einzuführen.
Maurer.
Herr Bundespräsident,
The federal
Sie sind
president
seit
has
etwas über
been
10 Jahren Mitglied des
a
Schweizer
member of the
Bundesrates.
Swiss Federal
Sie
Council
kamen
for
vor
over
7
10
Jahren
years.
zu uns,
You came for the
damals
first time
als
7 years ago.
Verteidigungsminister.
At that time, you were Minister of Defense. Today, you come as a Minister of Finance.
Für mich
For me,
eine Art
you are a kind of symbol,
symbolisch
a symbol of how one combines the old with the new. In your New Year's address, this is the point you made. We've got to be able to create bridges, and Switzerland is well known as the country which is able to do just that. And on the basis of its values, it tries to create bridges. And in this context, I would like to thank you and the Federal Council, as well as the Canton of Graubünden and the municipal authorities of Davos, for the hospitality that you have extended us for so many years. And I'm sure that that has contributed massively to our success. I'd also like to include in our thanks the hundreds and thousands of people who really make our lives here so productive and so safe and secure. Mr. Federal President, may I ask you to come forward and address us and to hold the opening speech.
Professor Schwab,
Professor Schwab,
Exzellenzen,
Excellencies,
meine Damen und Herren,
ladies and gentlemen,
im Namen der Schweizer
on behalf
Regierung
of the Swiss government, allow me to welcome the World Economic Forum here in Switzerland, and more specifically here in Davos.
Sie sind unsere Gäste.
You are
Es ist eine
our
Ehre
guests,
für uns
and it is an
dass
honor
Sie
for us,
mit
and it is wonderful for us to be able to welcome you in our snowy mountains. The WEF has been one of the most important platforms for the economy, for society and politics for a long time. The fact that we have an opportunity to engage in discussions with one another over the next few days can be traced back to the initiative of one man. Professor Schwab, you have managed to realize your vision, and you have created a unique network. Dear Klaus Schwab, dear Mrs. Schwab, I'd like to thank you personally, but also on behalf of the Swiss government and on behalf of us all. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of the thousands of participants for this initiative. What you have achieved is to be able to organize a meeting without a hidden agenda and in an independent and balanced way, in a neutral place, in a neutral Switzerland, and to allow us to be able to develop personal contacts here. And it is these personal meetings and contacts which will allow us to contribute to a better understanding of one another. The World Economic Forum has been fulfilling for the last 50 years the clear and growing needs of us all. And that is all the more amazing as the World Economic Forum has been able to develop its important role in spite of the fact that there is an incalculable number of other private and state-based fora at all levels in the world. Globalization 4.0 The fourth industrial revolution, our day-to-day lives, our politics, our economics, in fact, society at large are all influenced by the galloping pace of technological change. Now, although new technologies offer us immense opportunities and give birth to dreams, at the same time, they raise uncertainties, and many people are worried by these developments. The World Economic Forum has been looking at these issues in particular. The few keywords I have just mentioned are well known in Switzerland. After all, we have an innovative and competitive economy. Our universities and colleges of technologies of excellent level, as well as an integrated economy in global networks, are driving forces for the new technologies. Together with the scientific and business community, the government attaches much importance to creating a favorable environment to the dynamic development which is important for businesses as well as the Swiss population. We think that we are able to make an appreciable contribution to global growth, and in particular with our business partners throughout the world. And if I could just paraphrase Albert Einstein when he once said, "Those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are busy doing it."
A further important element in how we are dealing with the new phase of globalization is our political system of direct democracy, which always forces us to engage with the population. We thereby define a common path for future development. For example, in a popular vote held a few years ago, Swiss voters rejected an initiative to give everyone an extra week of vacation, because more vacation is not the answer to the new challenges in working life. The right answer is the will to perform and adapt. That is our understanding, and those are our values. That is what we are building on. Also, the dialogue between elites and the people is important. I'm talking specifically about dialogue, and definitively not about the monologue from top to bottom. The democratic process can take a long time, but they lead to balanced solutions and acceptance of the results. In addition, we all struggle to find balance in our daily lives, in our families, in the political field, and in the business world. Switzerland is an open economy. We want free and fair trade in goods and services. We are also open to a free exchange of opinions. New ideas must be discussed and tested. We reject dictates. The most used word in our constitution is freedom. We are proud of that. But freedom is most of all a duty. We are free to assume responsibility for ourselves and others. We are looking now forward to the 2019 World Economic Forum, to candid discussions in freedom among equals. Let us build the future based on our values, making wise use of new technologies. Personal relationships are probably our most important tools today. They open doors. Let us open them together. I wish you good days in Switzerland. Have fun and pleasure. Thank you for your coming.
the federal president, Swiss federal president Ueli Maurer, there addressing participants at the 49th Annual World Economic Forum. Earlier on, the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab, also addressed this year's meeting and welcomed the participants. He talked on the need to create a value-add globalization space, and he also talked about the challenges in an interconnected world and how the participants are going to be addressing those challenges. Well, let's now go to Mike Bustin. He's joining us on the line from the University of Southampton. Mike, what do you make of that speech there by Professor Klaus Schwab, the executive chair of the World Economic Forum?
Well, I think the speech is very symbolic, it's very optimistic, and I think it largely reflects a lot of the concerns that were published in the Global Risks Report. So they are stressing the need for an integrated approach. The globalization going forward, globalization 4.0, is about being human-centered. Once we embrace new technology, we must remember that it's about human beings and inequality and not leaving people behind. So a lot on inclusivity, concerns about new technology, cyber fraud, privacy concerns. Stressing the sort of role model of Switzerland as well, and the Swiss economy, where it's renowned for being open, full of discussion, full of new ideas, a lot of dialogue, friendly, welcoming. So it's really a message to the world economy and particularly the European economies of the multilateral way forward, cooperation, dialogue, discussion, and globalization 4.0 leading to more equality, more economic equality.
All right, Mike Bustin joining us there from the University of Southampton on his opinion on the executive chair's speech at the World Economic Forum. Well, David Awiro is still with us here in the studio. Let's find his thoughts. David, Klaus Schwab there talked about how globalization 4.0, which is the theme of this year's World Economic Forum, how that must be kept sustainable and the need to create a value-add space to globalization. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's a message that's very timely for Africa as well. We know that the African Union has begun a big initiative to have an Africa-wide continental free trade area, and the whole basis of that is to drive our value-add in terms of the amount of commodities and services that we trade amongst African nations. The basis or the core of the argument is that by trading with ourselves, we actually trade more in value-added products than in trading with international counterparts. And so through the continental-wide free trade area, we will actually further integrate, not only at the regional level, but also create opportunities for integrating at the within the global economy. And so this is a very timely message for Africa as well.
Well, 2018 closed down on a note where globalization and multilateralism were key themes of March of 2018. There were those against globalization. The Global South came back supporting globalization and multilateralism. What do we expect, though, from the week-long meeting?
Well, I think the meeting provides an opportunity for world leaders, both political as well as business leaders, to engage in informal talks to sort of try and address some of the emerging challenges that they're seeing across the global economy. Much as it might not give us strong resolutions that can be formally implemented, it will actually be able to shore up some of the opportunities that might exist within other formal governance, global governance processes. And so expectation is that they will have a mini trade ministerial, which is basically a confluence of trade ministers to sort of try and address some of the challenges that are going on around protectionism as well as the globalization that are emerging both for Africa but as well as the global stage and try and address some of those.
All right, forecasts for 2019 are still showing that African economies are growing and that some of the fastest growing economies are still on the African continent. But it does appear that that growth is not fast enough. How can Africa get that growth that it wants?
I think for Africa, we closed 2018 on a downside because commodity prices had gone down and much of African nations were facing fiscal policy constraints. As we go forward, a lot of nations have sort of instituted austerity measures to try and bolster their public financial management positions, as well as diversification of the economy as we go forward. And so we saw 2019 opened on an upward trend. We're seeing oil prices bouncing back, and expectation is that the oil-based economies are actually going to continue on an upward trend, and the challenges of the fiscal pressures that we saw in 2018 will somewhat be alleviated as most economies undertake fiscal consolidation measures. And so expectations are that although the expansion or the growth will be limited, we do expect an upward trend.
All right, David Owiro joining us here in studio. Thank you very much for your insights into African economies and the World Economic Forum. Of course, CGTN is in Davos. We'll bring you blow by blow details on what is happening at the World Economic Forum in Davos. For now, we're going to take a short break on the program, but still ahead. Zimbabwe's President Mnangagwa condemns violence and warns security forces.